think we're ready.
We doing it?
Yeah.
So everyone have wine?
Yes.
I have
Our audio
so much
sounds
wine.
good?
I got
Nice.
a mega pint of wine.
I have
So
a bottle next to me.
ready.
Just in case.
I have the bottle. I have the bottle next to me.
Hello, and welcome to Spooky Sips, where we put our love of horror movies into a podcast and sip on some spirits along the way. I'm one of your hosts, Ivette, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Brianna and Laura.
Hello.
Hey. All right. So we just watched the 1976 Alice, Sweet Alice. This movie is about favorite daughter Karen, who's played by a very young Brooke Shields, and she is viciously strangled and set afire in a church on the day of her first communion. Quickly, suspicion falls onto her jealous and emotionally unstable sister Alice. Dun, dun, dun.
This movie was recommended by my friend Stephanie. So thank you for the recommendation, Stephanie.
Yes, thank you.
Stephanie. Okay, so we decided for this episode we needed a drinking game. So first we're going to tell you what we're sipping on, and then we're going to tell you what the drinking game is. So Laura chose our drink tonight. So Laura, what are we sipping on?
So, in the movie, at one point, there is a dinner between an old priest and a church lady, and they are sipping on this classic Italian wine. And I actually remember seeing wine that looked like this when I went to Italy this past summer. So I think it's like legit Italian wine. And basically, it's just a Chianti, but it's in a bottle with a little basket. It's like kind of a rounded, like a cute shape rounded bottle of wine. And it's got like this like wicker basket at the bottom of it. So it's just a Chianti red wine.
Yeah. It's very good.
It's special.
But I thought we should have some communion wine while talking about this movie.
I mean, that's very fitting.
Yeah, I thought that was a perfect pick.
Yes. Okay, so what we're going to do this episode is we each have picked a secret drinking game. So we are going to, the person who's telling what the drinking game is, the other two are going to mute your computer or turn off the sound of your computer, look away from the screen, and set a timer for, I don't know, how long do we think we need, ladies? 10 seconds? 15 seconds?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Let's do 15 seconds. So set a timer for 15 seconds. And then when the 15 seconds is up, you look back at the screen so that way you're not seeing the other person talk and reading lips or anything. And then the drinking game can begin.
Mm-hmm.
So, Brianna, would you like to start with telling us your drinking game?
Yes. All right, listeners. So every time Ivette says, let's get into it, or something very similar, and every time Laura says, basically, take a drink. Okay.
Okay. So Ivette, are you ready with yours?
Yep, I can go next. All right, guys, for my game, I think we should all take a sip anytime any of the three of us says everyone's favorite name, Karen.
Okay, sippers, my game is actually very simple. Anytime we forget a character's name, but I have a surprise.
Oh. Ah! Oh my God. Oh. Ah!
Sippers,
Where did you find that?
you cannot see. The reason I was so awkward is because I was trying to get on my costume
Oh my
of a
gosh.
translucent mask and yellow
Laura.
raincoat.
We're gonna need a selfie of this moment to share
100%.
along with this episode, because this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
I was so
excited.
afraid.
I love it.
I kind of think I just need to rock this outfit all the time. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me get, now that you know the surprise, let me get myself, I was panicked.
Oh my God. I also love that when you move, you can just hear the jacket like ruffling.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that is amazing.
Oh my God. I love it, but also I hate it. And I need you to
I
stop.
love it, but I hate it. I am so uncomfortable.
Okay, wait. Did you own any of this already, or did you go
No.
get this today?
No, so I
Okay.
went and I ordered the mask that came a couple of days ago. And then I went today to Lowe's because it's really hard to find a yellow rain jacket
Mm-hmm.
this time of year. But Lowe's, it's not just a jacket, it comes with pants. It's like a whole rain suit.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna need you to take this off because I cannot do this podcast with you wearing that.
Please stop.
It was more just I wanted to record your reactions to me. So that's why I put it on now, but I will be taking it off because it's really hot.
Yeah.
Can imagine.
Okay,
amazing.
Loud.
Yeah. Oh my God. That is
Oh my God, what a
amazing. I'm so happy you
mask.
did this.
Do you not love this?
Oh my gosh.
It's
the
so creepy.
creepiest thing.
Guys, should this be our next Halloween costume?
Yeah, I think it should be.
I'm mad that I didn't know about this outfit before.
Yeah.
Honestly, this is a sweet Halloween costume because you
It
need two
really
things.
is.
It's amazing. I'll take a selfie later.
I want to know
yeah.
why those masks were even popular.
Yeah.
They're incredible.
Okay, so listeners, if you don't know what we're talking about, go look up a picture of Alice, Sweet Alice, because the movie poster is of the girl wearing this mask, and Laura is wearing the same one. So go look it up if you don't know what we're talking about. It is,
And we will be uploading a selfie of Laura.
oh yes, and a selfie. Go to our page.
We'll show it to you. Don't worry.
Don't worry. Okay, so should we get into it?
Let's do it.
Okay, so had any of you seen this movie before or even heard of it? Let's say if you've even heard of it before this time.
No.
I hadn't either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm kind of surprised none of us had heard about it. Once I started looking into it, this really seems like one of those like cult classic horror movies that everyone has somehow seen.
Yes, it yeah, it's a cult classic. And I feel like the actress in it who plays Alice, she seemed so familiar to me, but she's only been in 2 movies.
Mhm.
But
she
I thought,
did.
how have I not seen this before? Because she looked so absolutely familiar.
I agree. I thought
Yeah.
the same thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So no, had
Okay,
not.
but what a phenomenal movie. Like, holy cow.
So good.
The story was incredible.
Okay, so let's just talk about the entrance, like the beginning of the movie, because I think it has got a fantastic intro.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
So basically, it's this woman who's like, she's basically wearing this veil, and she is saying, like, whispering this prayer,
Mhm.
and it's already creepy because she's just whispering over and over again, and then she like holds up this bloody knife.
And the music is amazing once the music starts. Like,
yes.
I loved the score of this film. So creepy and just like quintessential 1970s horror movie. Truly fantastic.
Yeah. No, so good. The score was really good. The composer, this was his first horror movie.
Oh.
So he had done he was definitely not inexperienced. He had worked for like Sesame Street for over a dozen years.
Sesame
Street.
What a jump. What a jump.
Yeah, he had done like Sesame Street, like other movies and stuff. So he knew what he was doing, but this was his first horror movie. And I think he absolutely nailed it. I don't know how you go from a Sesame Street tune to kind of just totally understanding horror movies.
Yeah.
It was very good. I also thought the font too was really good. It almost reminded me of, I forget the name of the font. It's like old school when you used to, the fanciest thing you could do with your computers was like artistic fonts. It was
right.
Like, what was did either of you remember what it was?
I don't remember.
Like, dripping the blood.
Oh, well, there was creepy.
Was it just creepy?
Yeah, I think it was just
creepy.
I think they just used creepy font for the title because it was just the words, but then dripping blood. It was amazing.
Yeah. No, so good. And honestly, I just love the feel of the movie. And I think it's just like from that time, right? Like movies from like the 70s, they just have like a feel to it. So even though we were watching it today, like, I mean, I was watching on like Blu-ray and it was like a remastered one. So you can tell they like brightened up the colors and stuff, but it had that feel of a 70s horror movie that I just love it. Like there's just something about them that makes them feel like extra creepy. I don't know what it is about movies from that time, but I feel like that's part of why I was so excited about it is like, I was like, yes, I just love the feel like from the very beginning.
And it had like a really unsettling feel. Like part of it is that they're children and that always makes you like a little unnerved when there's kids involved in a horror movie, I feel like. But just from the get-go, like it had a very unnerving feeling to it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I feel like it starts off, so after the intro scene with the nun and the veil, or I guess we don't know it's a nun, the woman praying in the veil. It's the scene at home where these girls come into the room, these young girls, and there's a priest there at their house, coming to visit their mom or something. And he's so close to the one girl, to Karen. She's like hugging
take a sip.
him and leaning. Oh, okay.
Like
She's like
obviously super familiar,
and she's like, when am I getting my presents? And so he's giving her presents, and she's like leaning
obviously
into
like
him.
the favored child.
Yeah, but also sexual vibe kind of between the priest and the little girl. At least that's what I went to. That's too much of a...
See, I didn't super pick up on that. I just
either.
more got that she was like the favored child. Like that, she was obviously being like super doted on and everybody loved her and like almost like a doll.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's when we get the first instance of the mask.
Oh my gosh.
Because Alice, puts the mask on, and what a weird, seriously, did any of us research more about this mask? Because it is terrifying. Like,
yeah, it was just popular at the time. The director literally just went to a store and saw it and picked it up. He was like, okay, yeah, no, this works. Like he just found it in a store.
Okay, because the movie was made in the 70s, but doesn't it take place? When does it take place? In the 60s?
It's set in 1961.
Okay,
yeah.
That's right.
But it was released in 76.
Okay.
It's just a little earlier. Laura, what are you doing? What is this experiment?
Okay, here's the thing, ladies. I was really so set to wear this mask for a majority of the recording. So right now I'm just pouring my Chianti and I'm going to see if it works, but it won't.
Guys, just so you know, we're trying to have this discussion and I look over and Laura's sticking like a straw through the mask to
very unsettling.
Drink her wine. It's really weird.
It doesn't work.
I don't like this. I don't like this. Please stop.
No, absolutely not.
All right. I'm done with the mask. Sorry.
Okay, so one of the things that kind of surprised me about this movie, just because, again, like I don't think I was expecting it, was just how many kills there were.
Yeah.
Like I don't know why. For some reason, I have this like bias in my head of older movies that they're not going to be as gruesome, which I really like. Every time I get fooled, like with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like they are super gory and violent, but this one had way more kills in it than I was expecting.
It was a total slasher for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, so we don't necessarily have to talk about all of them, but let's talk about at least the first one because
I mean there's only
holy cow.
There's only a few. Yeah.
There are.
We could break down the kills.
Okay, so the first one is like so gruesome.
It's so intense.
It's so intense.
To set the stage, we first see this sibling rivalry between Karen and Alice. So they are. So they're clearly, Karen's the favorite, and Alice gets jealous.
Oh, take a sip.
Oh gosh.
Oh, I think I might have a feeling I know the.
It's one of the two people, and. Alice, I think one of the two of them wants the other doll, right? Like they're fighting about over a doll. Because I remember noting that because it reminded me of the time, Brianna, when I used to hide your dolls. Do you remember the time I hid your dolls and then I didn't hide your dolls and it super traumatized you?
I literally have trauma. Like just ask my therapist. Literally, yes.
In my defense, you were really mean about the dolls. You played with the dolls. You wouldn't let me play with the dolls. So
I was a
have
little bit of a bully
retaliate.
as a child.
Yeah.
Okay. I was.
Oh, that's
I
totally
will
a
admit.
sibling thing to do. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh,
So
yeah.
it starts out as like, yes, there's the standard sibling rivalry, but it seems a little bit above and beyond.
And we know that like Alice has a lot of like, she gives people a hard time. Like she's a difficult child. Like we get the vibe very early on that she is a difficult child.
Yeah.
Oh, from the very beginning, I made a note. I was like, the angst is overwhelming.
Yes, that is the word.
From the start, you can feel it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So then, after they've been fighting, it's now time for Karen's first communion.
Take a sip.
So, it's gotta be.
Okay, so I think I've guessed Yvette's drinking game. Take a sip every time we say Karen.
Yep.
Yes.
All right.
Just for you guys. I figured that'd be a good
I don't
one.
think we've gotten to mine yet, which I'm surprised by.
Oh, well, we got to mine, but I didn't tell you to take a sip. So I messed that up.
That's okay. It's okay.
But it might happen again.
Yeah, we might hit it.
That it's gonna be hard to talk about this movie without saying that name, though.
I know.
But now you know.
Okay, so take away the scene, one of you two. Take it away with the scene.
Yeah, so basically she has her first communion, which is a really big deal. So we're like in the church and there's all the little kids set for their first communion lined up. And gosh, I'm trying to remember because it's such a blur, but Karen is at the end of the line, right?
Mhm.
Like she's towards the back.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden we see as all the other kids have processed into the church, Karen gets pulled back by a figure in a yellow raincoat and that creepy plastic mask.
And so keep in mind, the only time we have seen this mask before, and we've also seen this raincoat before, because
the children
Alice,
have it.
Mhm.
Alice had scared Karen in some weird, creepy abandoned warehouse by wearing the mask and like teasing her with the dolls.
Mhm.
It's like their school coat.
Yeah.
So it's like their school raincoat, I
Mhm.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically the figure in the raincoat grabs her and just instantly starts strangling her with like, what is it that she has, like a baton or something? Like,
I couldn't tell if it was like a candle or like it was.
a communion.
oh,
candle.
yeah, like a communion
was the
candle.
communion
Mhm.
candle. You're right.
Yeah.
It was.
Mhm.
And just like viciously starts
Take a drink,
strangling
by the way.
her.
Oh, yeah. Mhm. Oh, okay.
Is it candle?
I think I said it wrong, but I'll explain to you what it should have been.
Okay.
Once you figure it out.
So then the Karen is passed out and is unconscious. I think she might be dead at this point, or at least almost
to it.
gone.
Mhm.
And the figure is just dragging her by the side of the church. Like there's someone that sees her feet.
Mhm.
Like it's almost in plain view that this is happening, that she's like dragging her through the church
Mhm.
and then puts her into this bench, this like pew, like
Yeah,
big
like a sealed pew or something.
With like storage under. Yeah.
and then in the most upsetting part, sets her on fire,
Oh my God.
lights
That-
her communion candle and puts it in.
That scene though, where the smoke is coming out from
Yes.
under the pew, and then you see the fan going into the church that starts spreading the smoke in there. That was so good.
Yeah.
So good.
That
And
looks
how-
so good.
And how ballsy is it to? So at this point, I'm assuming that who has done the killing is Alice, because that's the
Yeah,
code
That's
and
what
the
we're
mask
led
we
to
see.
believe.
So that's kind of what I'm
Mhm.
thinking.
Mhm.
So how ballsy is that to be, this child who is presumably also Catholic
Mhm.
and religious to murder your sister and then set her on fire in church? That is
Yeah.
On the day of her first communion.
she didn't even get
Yeah.
now is first communion, you're baptized and then you have first communion?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then
you're already
so-
baptized.
Yeah. And then so in the Catholic Church, you have to do extra like classes and stuff before you can do your first communion. So it's like a big deal. Like it's one of the like sacraments. It's a big day.
Mhm.
But yeah, and then they try to convince us even more, because after all of this happens, you see Alice walk in through the side and then go and kneel for communion.
Yeah, like a sociopath.
Yes, and the way Alice is just provocative.
Yes,
she goes and she kneels down in front of the priest, and she's not like the other kids that is just, kind of sticking their tongue out to get the communion wafer, which is actually, when you think about it, kind of a weird practice.
It is.
But she does it in this dirty way. Something about it.
It's very sexual.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
and coming from a child, it feels very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Very uncomfortable.
No, it's off.
So then cue my personal favorite scene. Like, I think this is one of the like most epic cinematic moments, but when the mom discovers, because all of a sudden she gets found because someone goes to the smoke, like a parishioner goes to the smoke and sees and opens the box and sees the body and freaks out. And so it starts causing chaos throughout the entire church.
Mm-hmm.
But then eventually it gets back to Karen's mom, that like it's Karen, and just that scene where she discovers it was her that has been murdered. Like, that scream has to be the best movie scream I think I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, she absolutely nailed it. She looked so distraught. Like, it was, she did such a good job with that.
I feel like too, the quick zooming and like extreme close-ups of people's faces while they're screaming, and like cuts between people, and the strange zooms. I feel like that was kind of like a 70s horror movie type thing to do, but really set the tone.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
it did.
Well, and the director, Alfred Soul, he did that on purpose. He wanted those kind of close-up shots and like zoom. He wanted people to feel claustrophobic. Like, he wanted people to feel like they were packed into the pews in church.
It worked.
And then when you saw people like really zoom in on them, like, he wanted you to feel claustrophobic while you were watching it. And I think you totally got that. Everyone just, it felt claustrophobic the whole time.
Yeah, just all, what's the word I'm trying to say? Crammed
Yeah.
Story. Woo, okay, fine. Oh man. Yeah.
Also, can we talk about the chaos that ensued? Because that was such a good scene. Everyone's just freaking out, running to figure out what's happening. They like trample a nun.
Yes.
As everyone's trying to go like see what happened. I loved that scene.
Because it probably would be like that, like mass chaos.
Oh yeah.
Totally.
No, such a good
100%.
scene.
Which is such a contrast to what we'll eventually talk about later toward the end of the movie, when a tragedy happens at church. And I feel like everyone just kind of stands around and looks at it as it happens. And doesn't do anything about it. So it's really interesting that there's those two different experiences from the members.
Yeah. So I guess then we kind of get to like the part of the movie where we are all led to believe it's Alice.
Yes, exactly.
Right. I feel like this is that's what then starts to develop next.
Yes, exactly. It is. And then we're led into the scene where the mom's sister, so the kid's aunt, has come and is like helping take care of. And the aunt and Alice do not get along at all. Like at all. And there's just a lot of tension and a lot of like buildup of basically trying to we get to see Alice's character and kind of who she is in the next few scenes. And her and the aunt really don't get along. And that leads us to our next, I guess not kill, but almost
attack.
Kill.
Yeah.
Attack.
Yeah. Alice is sent downstairs to go. I think this is when she's asked to go give the rent check. So all we know is Alice is now downstairs after she gives him the check. And then that's when their aunt, Annie, is leaving. So we see her, kind of say her goodbyes, start walking down the stairs. When all of a sudden we see someone in a raincoat and a mask with a knife just start stabbing the aunt.
Yeah, and she like stabs her in the foot, and it's like really intense.
Yes.
Leg, and the aunt is, of course, dramatically screaming, and there's the close-ups of the face, and she like, becomes completely paralyzed and can't move from a stab to the thigh.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so
I know, like maybe she got an
good.
artery or something because it
Maybe,
was like
yeah.
really
And
intense.
it was
Yeah.
multiple stabs, so it would. Oh, it's so good. And then
And the aunt is screaming Alice.
yeah.
Like the aunt believes that this is Alice as
Mhm.
well. So she's like, Alice, stop.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, it's so good. And then you get the scene. Her mom, Catherine, hears everything, runs downstairs. Annie's trying to like drag herself outside just to get help. And you get them both in the rain, her blood just soaking the sidewalk as they're screaming for help. That scene was so good. Again, the acting is actually really good.
the acting is so good. And just I don't know what you call it, but like the cinematic, not the photography of it, but just like, what would you call that? Just like the
Cinematography?
Yeah, the cinematography. Yes, that's the word. Thank you. Is phenomenal.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good.
And at this point, I think we haven't mentioned too. So Alice's parents are divorced. Alice and, at the time, Karen.
May she rest in peace.
They were living with just mom, and dad was apparently out of the picture. But he has since come back. And now I knew I was going to do this. It's confusing because there's a character Tom and a character Dom.
Dom is the dad.
Dom is
the dad.
Okay. Everyone take a drink, by the way.
Okay.
So they're like screaming for Dom to come help, right? And then they take her to the hospital. Cut to the next scene. You see, it was the sloppiest IV I have ever seen in my life.
Oh my
God. That was like actually upsetting to watch them
really
put that IV in. I was like, are you kidding me? Like
where? I don't know the point of that scene.
They're just gonna stab it in there and she's just immediately starts bleeding. It is
everywhere.
So disturbing.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the landlord real quick.
Yes, we need to
take a break and talk about the landlord.
Most of my notes are actually about him.
Oh, great. I love it.
Very upsetting. There is just something unsettling and upsetting about this man.
Well,
we can start with the stain on his pants.
Oh, yeah. Like it's just dirty. His apartment is just dirty. Covered in cats.
Had he constantly just peed himself?
I think he must
honestly.
Have.
Yeah.
Like that's what the stains looked like. Like what? They did such a good job of making that so disgusting. Like I feel like I could smell his apartment.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. It kind of reminded me of, not talking about another movie, but like Gluttony in 7.
Yes. I thought the exact same thing.
Right.
I thought the exact same thing.
And then, the very first scene we see of him, he's calling himself Mama to
his cats.
And I was also concerned about the fact that he didn't have any cat that was older than maybe 2 months. They were all kittens.
Yeah, they were all babies.
Yeah.
But I think he did love his cats.
I think he did.
Right,
oh, yeah.
I'll give him that.
That was the one thing that I could appreciate about him, is he seemed to love his cats.
There's the one scene too, like when Alice was before the stabbing, when she was going to give him the rent check. Because I guess we didn't really talk about this. I forget when this was. Oh, everyone take a drink. At one point when Alice was at his door with maybe some other kids, he's like talking to them, and she's again making these sexual movements with her mouth, and he's just like rubbing his boobs.
Oh, that was so uncomfortable.
Like grabbing
so
them.
Uncomfortable.
It was just so gross.
So uncomfortable. And the whole time he's talking about, because it was after Karen had died, and he was like, oh, it's always the pretty ones that die. Like, it was just, it was so uncomfortable.
It was so uncomfortable.
Karen's the younger sister.
Yeah.
Right? So she's even younger than Alice was.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Ugh.
So I guess just like a fun fact, since we're talking about his character. So his name in real life is Alfonso. That's the name in the movie too. So that's just like his name. He is not a professional actor, was not a professional actor at the time. So the director was from the town of New Jersey that actually, I don't know if he's from there, but that's where he lived. So he knew the area. He had lived there for a bit. And so he met him there, and during the day, the way that Alfonso made his money is he would dress as a priest and hang around graveyards. And then when people were visiting, their family members, friends, like, et cetera, at the graveyard, he would kind of go and like get near them. And, so they would ask like, oh, Father, can you say a prayer? He would make up a prayer. And then usually they tip him, as like a thank you. So that's what he did during the day. And then at night, he was a bouncer at the only gay club in town.
Oh, like you do.
So the director met him at a cemetery because
oh my gosh,
just went and stood near him when he was visiting his dad.
Unreal. Like, what a life.
Yeah. So he kind of created this character with this guy in mind. He knew he kind of had to add this guy in. And honestly, I'm happy he did because I hated it.
Oh, yeah.
They did a really good job.
Intensified the film.
Oh,
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. What a character.
So gross. So gross.
Okay, so what was our next kill then? Because I'm trying to remember who else we had.
I think before we get to the next kill, there is a search for Alice. Because they think at this point, because Aunt Annie has, take a drink. She has accused her. But then no one can find Alice. So they're looking around for her. And then you see Alice. Is this when you see her in the basement?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see this weird chest with all kinds of things, which again are going to lead us.
It's like an altar. Yeah, like a shrine.
And it's again leading us to think that she's doing these killings because it's got the mask. It's got... What else does it have?
Like a
Her
candle.
veil, the doll.
Oh, the creepy three-faced doll.
What is that doll?
Oh, that doll was so creepy. Like one of the faces was happy, but still gross and creepy.
Yeah.
The next face was like the doll was in pain.
Right.
I don't remember the third one.
Yeah.
Somehow 2 even kind of makes sense to have it be like reversible, but 3?
Yeah, is unnecessary.
Just a creepy doll.
Very.
It also has the jar of cockroaches.
Yes, of live cockroaches, which he's like feeding.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Let's see. What is the next then?
Well, so basically they lock Alice up. Like they send Alice to an institution and they lock her up because she is deemed unfit for society.
Yeah.
Well, because the aunt... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, because the aunt has in the hospital in front of police detectives said it's Alice. When the mom herself was trying to basically threaten the aunt to say, don't do it. Don't say her name. How could you do this to us? Don't say it. I think she said the line, I wrote down the line that I like. I liked a lot where she said, people believe what they want to believe. And I feel like once we get to the end, we'll talk about how just amazingly brilliant that line was for her to say at that time.
Yeah.
Because she was thinking that everyone was thinking Alice did it, and mom was thinking she didn't.
Yeah.
But she was basically saying, people are going to believe what they want to believe.
Yeah.
So yeah, she gets institutionalized, but the killings continue.
Yeah. Okay. And I guess one question is, what did you guys think? Or like, I don't know, what would you do? Clearly, Alice was the suspect from day one, right? Everyone was suspicious about Karen's death. She had her veil, which she didn't really tell them where she found it. It sounded like a lie. Like, she like found it on the ground somewhere. But the parents don't let the police talk to her. They make that clear. Like, we don't want you talking to our daughter. Right. What do you do in that case, though? Because it was your other daughter.
I honestly
died.
don't know.
Exactly.
On the one hand, it's like, oh, yeah, obviously protect your child. But it's like, but it was your other child.
Exactly. Like, I literally, what a conundrum.
Yeah.
Well, and it's back to that people believe what they want to believe, or in their case, for their own survival, just emotionally, mentally, because if they then believed that Alice did it, which all evidence at this point is pointing to it, then they've lost 2 daughters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they're just for survival to get through this trauma, they cannot believe that it was Alice.
Yeah.
So it's hard to know what you do in that situation. Like I'm trying to think if I don't have children, but I'm trying to think of, if one of my sisters, if I suspected one of my sisters killed another sister, what would I do? That's a rough one.
No, it is.
Right?
Yeah.
It is. It's impossible.
Yeah. But anyway, I just thought I feel like that was interesting. Like I was questioning it while watching the movie, where it was like completely understand they're defending their daughter, but also don't you like want to know what happened? Like there's really no harm in letting her talk to the police.
No, like I would want to know.
In a way, it was almost them, I think, probably more worried about the truth, right? Like I almost think maybe they started to believe that she did do it. And it was like, no, denial. Let's not have her talk to the police.
That's what I thought, is that the mom did actually believe that it was her. Like,
I agree.
And was trying so hard to keep that from coming out.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think it could also have to do with the fact that the detectives in this movie were real pervy and not professional.
It was the 70s. Everyone was pervy and unprofessional.
I mean, when you very first, they go to talk to the dad, they call Dom into the office to talk to him about his daughter. And there's just porn all over the detective's office. There's just naked women, just pictures of them.
It was a different time, Laura.
It was the 60s. That's good old detective work, right?
Yes.
Did you guys notice that when you watched it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So much naked.
How could you not?
For no reason. Well, and then they're questioning Alice. So they give her a polygraph test. And then when they're doing it, they're just
so pervy.
So
they go from saying something about, she's a creepy little girl. They're calling her a little girl. And then they immediately say, oh yeah, but did you check out her chest? Like they're more vulgar words for it. But it's just this weird back and forth between she's a kid, she's sexually, I don't know, promiscuous. Yeah.
Right.
So it could also have to do with the fact that, she was maybe not in great hands with the detectives because
very true.
But yeah, so then she's in the children's, what did they call it?
Well, it's like an institution.
It's an institution, but
I forget what they called it.
Didn't they just call it a children's shelter or something?
I don't know.
Take a drink.
Yeah.
Okay, so then basically our next kill is this one.
The dad?
Dom?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Because now at this point, Alice is being accused by the aunt. So the parents decide to accuse the aunt's child, the cousin, Angela, because they're like, okay, well, maybe this was actually Angela. Like if you think it could be Alice, well, then hell, it could be Angela. And so Dom, the dad, receives a phone call from what we think is Angela being like, Uncle Dom, come meet me
in this abandoned warehouse.
At this abandoned warehouse. Come see me. And so he does. And we're met with the figure in the mask and the raincoat. And I love the way that this scene unfolds. We've got that he gets stabbed again, but basically they throw the knife. I love the scene where they throw the knife down the stairs and it lands perfectly in the banister.
Yep,
what a
perfectly
good scene.
upright.
Yes.
What a good scene.
So another good stabbing scene on the stairs. So they did it with the aunt and then they did it with Dom, and it was just there were very different scenes, but just very well done.
But the stab doesn't kill Dom. So basically he now, I think he still believes it's Angela. So he like gets up and he goes to find her because she runs away, and he goes to find her. And oh my gosh, the gruesomeness of the next scene. But basically I don't really know how it all unfolds because it happens so fast, but she incapacitates him again and now ties him up in rope.
Yeah, she hits him with a brick.
A
the
giant,
brick.
yeah.
That's what it
Oh,
was.
I thought it was a giant rock. Take a drink.
Oh, maybe it was a
Okay.
rock. I don't know.
Yeah, whatever it was. And ties him up in rope because they're in this abandoned warehouse and starts like rolling him over to the edge because we realize she's going to throw him off of the building.
And I do have to say, at one point when he, I think, was chasing her, before we get to this point where she's at the edge of the open window, basically, of the building, I was looking at her legs and I was like, that looks like a woman's legs.
Yes.
Does not look like a little, and this was the very first time of the whole movie I suspect that it was not Alice.
Yes.
Yeah. No, same. I totally noticed the same thing. I noticed her legs first, and then I was like, wait, she's really tall.
Yeah. And she's not the size of Angela. So we know it's not Angela.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're like ruling it out. So he's rolled over by the side and he's got something hanging from his mouth.
He bites off her necklace as a way to like identify her. Yeah.
Yeah. And he just is holding it in his mouth. And this scene was like so disgusting, but she basically like bashes his mouth in with a shoe, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. She takes off her shoe.
She
like
takes off her shoe and bashes his mouth in with it to get the necklace out of his mouth and then throws him off the edge of the building.
Yeah.
And we should explain the necklace.
Yes.
So the necklace, the first time we see it is way back to the beginning, where the priest, who I feel like is kind of creepy with Karen, he gives her the necklace for a present for her first communion. And Alice is super jealous of it. Oh, and then so I know I need to take a drink for Karen. When Karen,
now you're just doing it on purpose.
when she then gets put into the pew, the killer steals the necklace.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they can't find it.
So we are thinking that it's Alice who was jealous of her sister.
Right. Exactly. So now we know it's not Alice, though, because Alice is institutionalized and another murder has just been committed. So at this point, we now know. So once it's been discovered that Dom has died, they go and they get Alice out. Like the mom goes and releases Alice because it's clear it wasn't her. And
at that point, doesn't the mask come off? Like in the abandoned building, right?
Oh, yes, it does. We should say that this is where we, the audience, find out who the killer is.
Yeah.
And what was her name? Mrs. Troubadour or something?
Take a drink.
Miss was, I wrote it down. Tredony, something like that.
Tredoni, not Troubadour.
Take another drink for that, Miss.
I was close, right?
You want to know my drinking game yet?
I can imagine.
Yeah.
It's whenever we get a fact or a name wrong.
Yeah.
Nice.
Wait, Brianna, have we had a sip for yours yet?
No,
we haven't done it.
I chose a doozer because Laura did at the very beginning, but that's been it.
Oh, okay.
I was hoping that it would have been more frequent.
Is it only me?
There's a lot of podcasts
it's you.
left.
You each have one.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. There's a lot of time left. There's a lot of time left. Okay, yeah. I feel like in the murder, so one of the things that the director, because he was also the writer for it, or a co-writer for it, he wanted the pain to be relatable in the attacks. And I think he did a really good job with that, because with the first one, the aunt, just kind of like going back to that one, it's like the average person has not been stabbed, like we don't know what like getting stabbed feels like. And he was like, but everyone has like stubbed their toe or like hit their leg against something. Like he just felt like doing something in like your foot or your leg would just be a lot more relatable. So that's why he had her stabbed in the leg, because he just thought like people would be able to like understand it more. And then it was the same with Dom and like the lips, right? It's like for some reason that feels tense.
It did, like my mouth hurt.
Yeah.
And he was having his mouth bashed in, like I could feel that.
Yeah. And it's like we've all like cut our lip or like had something, right? Where like we've experienced pain. So like seeing such an intense pain does somehow like make it worse. I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think he did a
Ugh.
really good job with that.
Interesting.
So then we get to basically where Catherine goes, for some reason, she's going to visit Mrs. Tredoni.
She wants to go talk to the father.
She's looking for a priest. Okay.
The priest, yeah, but he like wasn't there yet or something.
Okay. So then there's just Mrs. Tredoni she's preparing a fish as the mom Catherine goes to visit her, and just the way that she has like the knife on the fish is just so, I don't know, creepy, I guess, or just menacing. It's menacing.
Yeah.
Menacing. Yes.
Yeah. And Mrs. Tredoni reveals the fact that basically she thinks parents pay for the sins of their kids. And her daughter died at her first communion.
Which, like, if alarm bells are not going off at this point, they should be.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, yeah. So the mom discovers that Dom has died. And so her and Alice are now back at the apartment. She asks Alice to go like check on Alfonso again or something, or Alice just goes in there.
She just goes. Yeah.
She just goes in there. And this is when she releases the jar of cockroaches on his sleeping gut.
Yeah, he's just passed out with his cats, just on the couch.
Oh, she is a menace.
She's so good. She's so good.
And so her, and then she leaves and she plays all sweet that she was just visiting with him,
hi.
Just visiting. And her mom leave. And as they leave, Mrs. Troubadour, what was it?
Take a drink.
That's her name, right?
I wrote down Fredoni. Is that right?
Mrs. Troubadour.
Yeah, that's right.
You said it again. Take another drink.
Oh my God.
Fredoni enters into the building, right?
Yeah, because I think she's trying to. What is she trying to do?
Honestly, I don't know if we know her goal because we see her get dressed up like she's wearing the raincoat.
She's mess shit up. She's just going to be a menace to society.
Yeah.
And then she enters into the apartment of Alfonso. And I'm trying to remember exactly how this scene goes down.
It's like he's exiting because I think the cockroaches wake him up.
They do.
And so he screams and I think runs out, or she knocks. Somehow they end up at the doorway where he like shoves her against the wall and then she stabs him. But at that point, she loses the mask too.
Yes. Yeah. And stabs him and he ends up dying.
And we need to talk about that when he dies, he's been stabbed, so there's blood all over the floor. And this is something, as a cat owner, I must say, is a fear I have had. The little kitten just goes and is licking up the blood like this is a tasty treat.
There's a lot of like gross aspects of this movie that just make you feel like, ugh.
Yeah.
That's one of them.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But then we're now at the church, right?
Yes, now we're at the church. Final scenes.
Detective was already there at the apartment because he was keeping an eye on Alice and Catherine when he heard the scream. So he saw that it was Tredoni because her mask was already off. So he knows it was her.
Yeah, so like they're aware of who it is now. So, and she enters into the church. And so the cops are kind of outside getting a game plan of like, okay, how are we going to get in there and get her? Because she's in a crowd. We have to like plan how we're going to go and get her. And the priest, Father Tom, is essentially like, oh, I can calm her down. Like I can get her to come with me. So their plan is for her to come up to communion.
Which I have a question. Why when they're I'm gonna go why when they're doing the communion during that scene I don't know if this is a thing because we've all grown up, going to church sometimes, or, why is there a mirror under everyone's chin?
Oh,
as they
okay.
get
So
there?
Yvette probably knows this.
I
one
have
too,
never seen that
but
before. Maybe this is
it's to
Episcopalian.
catch the communion.
Yeah.
So it is so sacred that one, that's why they put it in their mouth. Like they cannot even touch it. It has to go from the priest's hand to the person's mouth. And then that plate is just in case they drop it.
Yeah. Yeah. For any non-religious people out there, it's like the body of Christ, you know,
they
that you're taking. So you don't want that to fall to the ground.
This is like 1960s Catholicism. So it's even more like intense. That's why they all wear the veils. The women have like the hair covering. Yeah.
It reminded me of, at the dentist where they're just trying to see. And I was like, are they trying to make sure that the person is actually eating the wafer and they're not hiding it in their tongue? Like they're
checking it. No, it's more of a catcher than a mirror.
Show me you finished it.
Yeah.
It
open
was very
wide.
Reflective. It was very reflective.
Like when you take meds, they like med check you.
Oh, that's so funny.
I love that.
Oh.
Okay, so Tredoni, there we go. I got it. Is about to go up for communion. And Father Tom is going to get her. And of course, they make Alice be right next to her. Like,
it was not initially the way it should have been because Tredoni rushes to the front of the line
so that she's next to both Catherine and Alice.
Very inconsiderate.
And Catherine gets her communion and goes down. And then it's supposed to be Alice's turn, but Mrs. Tredoni butts in and is like, no, give it to me. And Father Tom is like, Mrs. Tredoni, you have to come with me. And this scene is amazing because it happens so fast. Like, basically she's like, oh no, I can't. And then all of a sudden she just stabs him right in the neck.
Yep.
Like in one fell swoop, just gets him. And I mean, the blood just starts going everywhere.
Oh, it was so
beautiful.
And this is a scene where I feel like was such a contrast to the first one where people are kind of just standing around, like watching it go down. They're not screaming for help. They're not trying to assist. They're kind of just there.
I think they're in shock.
I think it is like the other one. Most of the people didn't see the body, like of Karen. Most people didn't see the body. Whereas this one is like a live, active murder that must have been so shocking that people probably didn't even comprehend what had just happened.
Yeah. Oh, it was so good when his body falls onto her and she hugs him and you see then the blood start pouring out over her shoulder. So good.
And she's kind of loving it.
Oh yeah, no, she's loving it. She's loving this.
We didn't talk about an earlier scene where basically she goes to give this confession and you can tell she just has the hots for the priest.
Oh yeah.
So she's liking that she gets to hold him while he dies.
So then the movie just ends with Alice grabbing the bag that Mrs. Tredoni had.
Yes.
She's got the knife and she just, Alice has found the knife somehow. Did she pull it out of his neck? Like where?
Well, I think she did he stab him and then back down maybe?
Okay. And then drop the knife.
Okay.
So
we forgot
Alice has
maybe.
Okay. So Alice has the knife. And she puts it in the bag and then it freeze frames. And that's the end of the movie.
To this creepy look to camera.
Yes.
It's such a creepy and it's not super malicious or evil, but it is creepy.
It's very creepy.
I don't know how she nailed that look, but she did.
Yeah. And I have to say it had me doubting myself. So then what I did was because I was like, okay, first they made it think it was Alice and then it's Mrs. Tredoni. But then I'm thinking, okay, then why does Alice have the knife? Did the stab happen so fast that it was actually Alice that stabbed the priest? And I just,
you're questioning.
I'm remembering it. So I rewinded to the very first scene to watch who actually killed Karen.
Oh.
And then I rewound to see who killed the priest at the end because it had me thinking that maybe I was wrong.
Such a check. Oh, interesting. I thought they were going for Alice is going to be the next murderer.
That's what I thought.
Where it was
she's going to pick up where she left off.
She's connecting it. It was,
Yeah.
Because obviously Alice is not stable.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, Alice has got,
She's got some issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
which might be a good time to enter into our psychoanalysis, where
guys.
we talk about the psychos of our films.
Oh, I have been so excited about what your thoughts are on this. I'm pumped about this. Just as a reminder, guys, Laura's not a real doctor, but these aren't real people. So it's okay.
Amen.
My psychoanalysis is as fake as the characters are.
Exactly.
Okay, we've got a lot to unpack here. So let's just kind of start with the first thoughts I was thinking. So when initially we're thinking Alice is the bad kid, I immediately went to the relationship that she has with her parents. So one theory that used to be kind of a thing back in the 40s was this idea of a refrigerator mother or of a refrigerator parents. Have you heard that phrase before?
No.
So basically, and I am actually forgetting why it was called this. It was a term that used to be used when kids were diagnosed with either autism or schizophrenia. It was blamed on the parents. Oh, the mom is cold and uncaring. She's this refrigerator mother. She basically is what caused the kid to act out this way.
Oh, interesting.
Totally disproven. That is not what, current psychologists believe or know to be true. But maybe back when this movie was made, especially back when it was set of the 60s, could have been a thing that could have still been believed by some. But then you also get to like the relationship of the parents and the kids. So mom is really dismissive to Alice.
Yes.
I mean, she totally pits Alice and Karen against each other. And then they even say when Alice goes to the shelter, the psychiatrist that diagnoses her and is working with her, she says that Alice is repressing hostilities toward mother and estranged father.
Yeah.
Totally.
So you've got the mom who's basically, she's kind of, I would say, kind of an authoritative type of parent where she's like, these are the rules and this is the discipline. And she just dismisses Alice. Do this, do that. I don't care why. I don't care what you think. Follow the orders. That does not cause the problems that Alice was having.
Yeah.
So the doctor in the movie diagnosed her with schizoid personality disorder. So we can get into what that is.
Yeah.
But really what I want to do is talk about what that was at the time.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, basically the book that people use to classify mental health disorders, it's had a bunch of revisions. We're on the DSM-5 right now, but it's had, some of the 2s and 4s have had different revisions. So it's had a bunch of updates. But Alice would have been diagnosed under the DSM-2.
Oh,
The DSM-2, that was actually the first version of the DSM to add childhood and adolescent behavioral disorders.
Interesting.
Before that, it's just
It's
trouble.
just kind of adults and then fit kids into it.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's just to kind of show you how old that this was and how fast things change. So under the DSM-2, the schizoid personality disorder, it's kind of classified under a personality disorder. I don't know how else to do it other than just read you the definition.
Yeah.
So the classification, the definition is: this behavior pattern manifests shyness, oversensitivity, seclusiveness, avoidance of close or competitive relationships, and often eccentricity. Autistic thinking without loss of capacity to recognize reality is common. In other words, kind of thinking just about yourself without losing the fact that a reality outside you is there.
Okay.
as in daydreaming, the inability to express hostility, and ordinary aggressive feelings. These patients react to disturbing experiences and conflicts with apparent detachment.
Mm.
So it's a little different than schizophrenia. So it sounds the same. There's the schizoid personality and then schizophrenia, but schizophrenia is where it more progresses, but the schizoid personality is kind of just that consistent. They're kind of just detached.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't know, what do the non-psychologists in the conversation think about that definition? That makes sense.
I think that fits.
Yeah. Right. I mean, yeah, I feel like that makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't like it very much. I mean, I think there's parts of it where she's, detached from her sister and her parents. I mean, she kind of is showing an attachment for her parents, but it's superficial. I feel like it's
Exactly.
Yeah.
it's not genuine.
Yeah. I do think a lot of her, I don't know, just her character is just being an angsty preteen. Like there's a lot of that where it's like this, I don't know, that's just how kids are, right? Like I hated everything when I was 12.
Well, and when
13.
you treat someone more poorly than the other sibling, like that would piss them off. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the weird shrine and the weird, like,
Shrine's a bit much.
And just the provocativeness and the way that she treats other people, like, there might be a little something.
It's angst plus something for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and also that diagnosis is not usually given to people that are children.
Interesting.
You usually have to be 18 or older. So I don't know if that's changed from back when this movie was made to now, but that's not common for it to be in kids.
Yeah.
So let's see. Now that that disorder or that diagnosis is actually pretty similar still, except for they do also have some things of kind of, it's not paranoia, it's this this other term for basically like kind of feeling like people are talking about you or like you go into a room and everyone's looking at you, which again, I think is just a teenager thing.
Yeah,
totally. A little bit. Yeah.
All teenagers think everyone is always
feel that worry.
Always talking about them, can always see everything that they do because it's just teenage anger.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit about the diagnosis. I feel like I'm talking too much though.
No, I feel like that
getting educated.
No, we're getting educated. This is an educational series, everyone.
Okay, this is educational. All right. So now let's get into a little bit. One of the first things I thought about, because it's always when it gets into family dynamics and kids, I think about developmental theory, basically.
Ooh, yeah. Okay.
So I think one of the ones that I jumped to was Erikson's psychosocial theory. Basically, it talks about different.
That's what I thought of too. Crazy.
Yeah, me too. I was gonna say
that's what you're gonna go to.
When I was thinking about it, that was like the first thing that popped into my head.
Yeah, I mean, Freud is BS, so we're just gonna go straight to Erikson's, which I think has a little bit more substance. But basically, this is like a way of thinking about how kids develop and different choices or paths they can take in each stage of development. So it starts out when you're an infant, you can go the trust versus mistrust route. And I feel like probably Alice was set up for failure in that because her parents do seem pretty not there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty absent.
Yeah.
So people that do end up having, behavioral problems or schizophrenia or schizoid personality disorder, that does not result from parenting. That's going to happen. But having maladjustment definitely can happen from parenting.
Yeah.
So I think that because they really didn't care about her or show much love toward her, especially when you compare it to Karen, that's gonna lead to some problems.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then you jump over a couple. So, early toddler, early childhood, I think maybe she was okay, but now she's in this she's kind of at the end of late childhood. What age do we know what age she is?
They say
she's
12.
Okay. I was going to say, Because
Mhm.
8 is usually first communion, right?
Okay.
Mhm.
So she's like right before that adolescence, and that age development, according to Erickson, would be considered the industry versus inferiority.
Oh,
So.
interesting.
Which basically means like you feel like you can do stuff, you feel like you can take responsibility for your life, you can accomplish things if you're kind of set up on a right path and you have that support and you have that ability to do so. Or if things go south, it leads to this inferiority. And just Alice was set up for doom in this.
She sure was.
Her parents are constantly, and the priest and her
Yep.
school, they're constantly talking about how she is messed up. She
Mhm.
is not as pretty as her young sister or sexually appealing as her younger sister.
Oh, yeah.
So she's acting out.
Mhm.
Fair.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, I think she also has got some mental health problems that definitely need to be addressed.
Oh,
For
yeah.
sure.
But her family dynamic did not help the situation at all.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Mhm.
And I know they talked a lot about divorce. And
Yeah,
I think it was a different time then, right? So now
Mhm.
divorce is like normal.
Yeah. Mhm.
Statistics do show that most kids that have parents that divorce will not have significant behavior or mental health problems. Most will not. Some
Mhm.
do, though. I think it's kind of depending on how you handle it.
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
I would be very curious to know how this movie was received when it came out, because it came out in the 70s, right?
Mhm.
And it's just very like almost anti-Catholic.
Oh, yeah.
And so I wonder, like, with the divorce being such a big thing, like how
Yeah.
this movie was received. We should ask our parents if they ever saw it, because
Oh, I wonder.
I would be very interested to know like how this was received.
Yeah, the director is an ex-Catholic who was excommunicated
Oh,
from the
okay.
Catholic Church a little bit before this.
Okay.
Seems reasonable.
So yeah, it was received very poorly in Catholic heavy areas. So like I know like Ireland, it had a really hard time getting
Yeah.
shown even.
Okay.
Because it was considered like way too anti-Catholic.
Yeah.
In general, the reception was kind of meh.
Okay.
We can talk about it later. There were a lot of problems getting this movie out there and
Okay.
distributed and shown, separate to the Catholic thing. So like it had like some good critical response. Like they received some good like critic reviews, and like they even won an award at like the Chicago Film Festival. So like it did okay. And then in general, kind of just like okay responses from the audience that they were
Okay.
able to show it to.
Mhm.
But yeah, we can get into that a little later too.
Maybe it was ahead of its time.
Yeah.
I don't have too much more for psychology, just a little bit.
Oh, okay. Sweet. Yeah.
So basically, let's see. We talked about the divorce thing.
Oh, take a drink.
Oh, where I didn't make sense.
We'd be drinking a lot more if it was anytime one of us didn't make sense.
Oh no. So we were talking about divorce. But kids adjustment prior to the divorce, is that what it is?
Take a drink.
It's basically, dang it.
Oh,
I saw a glimmer in your eye when I started to say
you
it.
saw it.
Yeah, it's anytime Laura says basically,
I say it
which
so
I
much.
probably missed a few.
I don't think I do that in real life, but I think I do.
I mean,
I
I think you've been doing pretty good on the
Yeah.
podcast. We haven't been sipping
Okay.
too much.
All right. So essentially,
So basically,
if there is a kid that has adjustment problems before a divorce, then a divorce could bring it about.
makes sense.
But it's not like if you've got this typical healthy kid with really healthy relationship with their parents, but then the parents get divorced, it's going to just ruin a kid. That's not going to be the case. But if there is a kid that's going through problems with their parents already, or already has some, internal mental health things going on, it could bring that about.
Okay. Makes sense.
So I want to tell you what I think maybe my diagnosis for Alice would be. I think that it's a little hard to tell because so much of it she got blamed for without it being accurate. But I think maybe more than the schizoid personality disorder, she's got some reactive attachment disorder.
Oh.
What does that mean?
So that is a trauma or stressor related disorder. And this is one where it's different than the refrigerator parents theory. It's not like blaming it on the parents, but this one is saying that because of some poor relationships that happen with parents, it could lead to this type of, I guess, concern with a kid or with a person. So basically it's where they, oh, dang it, I did it again. So this person will be emotionally withdrawn toward adult caregivers. And I think that although Alice was showing that she wanted the mom to love her, but it was superficial.
It was. She was withdrawn.
Oh, yeah.
It was for show or more
No,
for
she
to get
was
back
withdrawn.
at Karen instead of genuine love.
Oh, yeah.
So she doesn't really seek comfort from her parent when she's distressed. She has a persistent social and emotional disturbance, being where she doesn't seem genuinely happy. She's really irritable, sad, or fearful, kind of just overreactive to things.
Believe
Which
that.
definitely
Yeah.
see in the movie.
Yeah, Yvette and I are just shaking our heads.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
The whole time.
Yes.
And where she's experienced a pattern of extremes of insufficient care. And this can be considered neglect or deprivation, repeated changes of primary caregivers, or this one doesn't apply to her. But basically where she, oh, dang it. Now every time I say she has struggled to form this attachment with parent caregivers, and she also is kind of predisposed to some of these characteristics. And so she's got, I would say, reactive attachment disorder.
Okay, that actually makes a lot of sense.
I mean,
feel like
yeah.
that's fitting.
Yeah.
All right, two more things. One is there is some theories about birth order.
Yeah.
I feel like plays
yes.
into this movie.
Oh, yes, yes.
So as a middle child, I can say the theories on birth order are completely 100% accurate. Because
I can
I've always
attest to
left
that.
out and put in the middle and have to be the peacemaker.
Oh, my God.
Don't start crying.
Oh, my God. Don't start crying again.
I won't. Spooky Sippers, if you're watching our episodes in order, you have just listened to
Poltergeist.
Poltergeist. I got a fact wrong.
And if you haven't, go listen to it.
Please do.
It's a really good one, actually.
I cannot tell you why I was crying. I really don't know.
It was just so nostalgic.
Just overcome
It's just
with
overcome.
emotion.
I just looked at Brianna and I cried.
You know, that's how deep our love is.
Yeah, it's true. It's so true.
So what was that about birth order?
Birth
Yes,
order. So sometimes there can be higher expectations for the older child and harsher expectations. So the younger child can get away with more things or kind of be forgiven for more things, whereas the older child is expected to just do more on their own and independently and just be better at things. And I feel like Alice had that pressure to be as pretty as Karen or as, I don't know, loved by people as Karen. And she couldn't live up to that. So that's a lot to try to live up to. And I feel like the mom was just really obvious in her favoritism for Karen.
She wasn't subtle. Yeah.
She was very obvious.
And the dad was just very complicit in it. He was just, okay, wife, I can't really, my theory is that he couldn't really handle how intense the mom was with her, love for Karen over Alice. So he was like,
I'm out.
I'm going to go find a new wife.
He's not there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And the last thing I have to talk about is polygraph tests.
Yes. Yes.
They're bullshit.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Bullshit. If any of us ever get in trouble, do not go
Don't
take one.
do it.
Do not
See,
go take one.
That's the thing, right? It's like, don't go take one. But also, every time you hear a true crime story and they reject the polygraph, it's like, oh, that's sus. Are you hiding something?
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. But
That's why
just
you get a
say-
good lawyer.
Yeah. Or just say, my sister is a psychologist. They don't need
I mean,
to talk
don't
to
say
a
anything.
doctor.
Don't talk to cops.
And I know I can't take one.
Don't
Yeah.
talk to cops.
Don't talk to them. And don't take a polygraph.
Yeah. Don't really, though. Don't.
But basically just psychologists. Oh, dang it.
Basically.
I'm going to start noticing this in real life now.
Oh, no.
All right. So psychologists agree that there is really no evidence or very little evidence that
Mhm.
polygraph tests can detect lies.
Mhm.
Really, they can detect some autonomic nervous system symptoms, I guess, or characteristics, I guess. But it's like if you're sweating, if your heart is racing, if you're breathing fast, but you can do that if you're lying, sure. But you can also do that if you're nervous because you're fucking taking a polygraph test.
Yeah.
And the cop has just told
Right.
you as a 12-year-old that your boobs are great. And
yeah.
like that can also make you fail a polygraph test.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if they're asking you about something that causes you stress.
Like a murder.
Yeah.
Like the murder of your sister.
Or yeah, like even if they're asking you about that topic and it's not bothering you, but then once you know they're trying to frame it on you,
Pin
that
you?
might make you
Oh,
nervous.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So polygraph tests, they can give you some information about how a person is feeling, but it's
Mhm.
really not a lie detector. It is a
Okay.
symptom
Good to
of
know.
how kind of nervous or I guess what's the word I'm thinking of? Not aroused, but
But just a response.
how much you're responding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Interesting.
There's
Yeah,
my
makes
psychoanalysis.
That's a good psychoanalysis. There was
Yeah.
a lot for this movie.
Oh,
I
yeah.
know, that was
Oh, yeah.
that was a lot. Did I miss anything that you want to know about that I might not be able to answer?
No, I think that covered mine.
No, that was good. I was really excited about your dive into Alice.
Yes.
So that was really cool.
So I think really Alice needs mental health support. I do think especially with that knife scene at the end, if she does not get some psychiatric help, some therapy, and if parents don't get some therapy on how to be better fucking parents to her, I think she could go down that same path. But she also could get the help she needs and live a very successful, typical life.
Oh, well, we're rooting for you,
Yeah.
Alice.
We really are.
Yeah,
We
absolutely.
really are.
There's my psychoanalysis.
I
Oh my-
love it.
Well, should we get into some fun facts?
Yes,
I alluded to some of
please.
these. Okay, the first one is, did either of you look up how old the actress who plays Alice is?
No.
Or
I
was at the time of
curious.
filming? Sorry.
No.
I thought I looked up maybe how old Brooke Shields was, but not
Yeah.
Alice.
Now, do you have a guess on how old she was?
I would say she was probably like 15.
Yeah, 15.
She was 19
Oh my
years old.
gosh.
That is a
Like a
19
grown-up.
year old. The director met her when he went to like NYU with a friend.
Oh my gosh.
She
Was
was a
this her first
college
job?
student.
I
Yeah,
would
her
not
first job. She went into like one other movie after this and then just didn't do acting
I
anymore.
would
She
not
was-
have expected that.
Yeah,
at
she was a
all.
dance major at NYU.
Oh my
This was her
gosh.
first movie.
Wow.
Wow.
I was
Fascinating.
shocked. I think I did think she looked older than 12.
Yeah, but not
And
that old.
I thought, yeah, same as you. Like I thought maybe 15.
yeah.
Um,
I thought that was like an extraneous guess.
Yeah,
yeah,
I feel like in all of our other episodes, I've been spot on with the kids. I've
Mhm.
been like, they're playing an 8-year-old, they're 10, they're playing a 12-year-old, they're 14. But this one, Yeah, I would have thought 15, not 19.
Wow. She had such a baby face.
She really does.
Like I didn't think she looked that much older. But the director said it was really weird because she looked young. Like she clearly looked young. She was 19. She was in college. But she would be dressed, in like pigtails, like the normal outfit like the costume for the movie. But then during the break, you'd like see her on the side of the building smoking.
Nice.
I can't even imagine.
Right? Do we know how old Brooke Shields was when she was in it?
I don't know.
No,
she was
but
really
he had to have been young.
Yeah.
I wonder if she was younger, but playing. No, she was already playing the younger sister. Take a drink.
Yeah, because she was only 8 in the movie.
Yeah.
She would have been like 10.
Oh, okay.
Like 9 or 10.
I want to listen to these fun facts with my mask on.
Yeah, she would have been like 9 or 10.
Okay, it's like pretty much the same.
So about
I feel like she looked about right.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to look at you. I'm just not going to look at the camera while you're doing that.
Does it sound too bad?
Yeah.
A little muffled.
Too muffled. Okay.
So the director was actually like an architect, interior designer. Like that was his main job. And then he kind of took an interest in film. So this was his second film. His first one, he just kind of figured the easiest way to get into filmmaking was to make a porn. So his first movie was a porn.
Nice.
It did extremely well. He raised $25,000 to shoot it. And this was just from like his clients, like his architect, interior design clients that he like asked for money to help him make this movie. And it ended up grossing like $2 million. So it was a high class porn called
so our next movie will be
yeah, what's it called?
Deep Sleep.
Deep Sleep?
Yeah, Deep Sleep. It was also, so this is what ended up getting him excommunicated from the Catholic Church because he also went real heavy on the Catholic stuff.
Nice.
With the Deep Sleep. It was like Catholic porn. Love it.
He unfortunately ended up in this giant lawsuit because I guess it broke a bunch of New Jersey laws to film a porn. He didn't get the proper permits to make this movie. So he did end up having to go to court and do all this stuff to deal with the aftermath of it. So I'm sure he ended up losing quite a bit of that money that he made. But apparently people loved it because I can't believe that it made $2 million.
Yeah, that's pretty phenomenal for a porn.
In the 70s.
In the 70s.
Wrong with me? I really, really want to watch it.
No, it's not. I totally had the same thought. I was like, okay, I kind of need to go see it.
So that's our next movie.
When is the next theater showing?
Right?
Deep Sleep.
I wonder if we could even still find it. Probably not.
Honestly, I think because it broke so many laws, it did get taken down from a lot of places. So I'm sure someone out there has uploaded a copy, but
I'm sure
it might be a little harder to find.
Right.
This movie was made with $350,000, which is still pretty low for a movie.
Yeah.
And so what he would do is he would raise money. And then once they ran out of money, they just had to stop filming. And then he would try to get more money. And then they would film.
Oh my gosh.
So like shooting wise, like days that they were on set shooting, it was only, I think they said it was like 20 something days. So really not that long to film it, but it stretched, I think, over a year because of the way that they had to shoot it, where they would shoot, stop, shoot, stop, shoot, stop. Like they had a few other things come up. So it took them a while to get it done. And then because of that, because they had to stop and like reshoot so many times, they actually ended up having, and I saw mixed numbers about this, between 6 and 9 different cameramen, which is kind of wild.
That is wild.
And it's kind of crazy that it wasn't noticeable for like a very new director. That was, after I saw that, I wanted to like rethink through the film because I feel like it wasn't obvious that.
No, it seems really cohesive. It doesn't seem, it doesn't seem disjointed at all.
Yeah, like the way it was filmed didn't really seem to change.
No, very fluid.
Like that much, considering that he was like a fairly new director. The fact that he was able to, instruct them in such a way that the whole movie looks cohesive is pretty impressive.
Yeah, that is impressive.
He did have some adjusting to do, though. He did say it was, shockingly slow filming the movie because, when you film porn, it's really fast.
Go, go, go.
You reach a certain point and you're done.
Go, and then you're done. So, shooting a movie felt really difficult.
I bet.
You had to adjust to the timeline.
That's amazing.
The original name for the movie was Communion. I don't know if you guys saw that anywhere, but that was the original name. It was originally going to be released by Columbia. And back then, I guess Columbia was doing this thing where they wanted a book released first and then the movie. So they did have a book written and released called Communion, but then they ended up dropping the film because there was some financial stuff that they just weren't agreeing on or something that they didn't like. So they got dropped. They had a hard time getting picked up, but eventually Allied Studios decided to pick them up.
Okay.
And they didn't like the name Communion because they didn't want people to think it was a religious film. They were like, no, we think maybe people won't go watch because of that. So they changed it to Alice, Sweet Alice. Okay. And the director was really upset about that because he liked the name Communion.
I like Alice, Sweet Alice.
I think Alice, Sweet Alice works.
I like Alice, Sweet Alice, but I also like Communion. And I think probably in honor of that, I thought of already the title for our podcast episode.
Oh.
It should be Communion Wine.
Oh, totally.
Communion and wine. So
totally.
I want to nod because I didn't see many facts, but when I was just trying to get info to do some psych research, I did see that it was supposed to be called Communion.
Yeah, totally.
So. And then for any of you out there who maybe watched it and you're like, I felt like I watched this movie under a different name, that's because it has been released in other names. So it was accidentally released as Communion at some point. It was also re-released as Holy Terror. When Brooke Shields' career kind of took off, they decided to re-release it to, see if it would do well. Mm-hmm. And then for whatever reason in Wisconsin and Florida, it was released as The Mask Murders.
Oh, how weird.
So this movie has many names.
A movie by many names.
And during all this chaos of trying to get the movie picked up by a studio to release it, someone forgot or improperly filed or just didn't file correctly with the Copyright Office. So this movie was not copyrighted.
Oh my gosh.
No. So there were a ton of bootleg copies because it really wasn't illegal. There was no copyright registration for it.
Wow.
And so part of that is time. So part of that, some people had the title Communion. Some of the films were 10 minutes shorter with sections being cut off. Some of them were the full length film. You got a bunch of variations on there, which is another reason why it's kind of hard to figure out how it did with the public because just non-theater releases. It was just bootlegged everywhere.
Oh my gosh. Wild.
Yeah. In the UK, this was during the video nasty era that we've kind of talked about.
Nice.
Video nasty.
So this one was I guess this was during a time where the UK was trying to figure out what they were doing with the whole video nasty thing. So this was considered a Section 3 video nasty, which meant that it couldn't be prosecuted for obscenity, but they still didn't like it or want them to show it.
Okay.
Eventually, they did get it released, but they had to cut the scene where Alice grabs the kitten by the neck and then throws it because that went against some animal rights laws that they had and cruelty in the UK. So they had to cut that. That was just 8 seconds of the film. And then in 2014, it was eventually released, the full movie in the UK.
Oh, okay.
Not until 2014.
Yeah.
Wow.
Holy cow. Wow.
Well, and I think part of that is some of those movies that fell under the video nasty that could potentially be charged for obscenity. Some of the studios just gave up. They were like, you know what? That's fine. We just won't release it in the UK. I'm not going to fill out the paperwork.
I have to say, though, I do appreciate because I feel at least in America, we have it all wrong with what is considered inappropriate or harsh for audiences and what's not. So we'll let, any type of violence happen. But as soon as you show a nipple, you're kicked out.
Oh, yeah.
Can't do it.
Right.
Whereas I think what should be considered a more restrictive type of showing is something like violence toward people or animals. So I don't know. I feel like I like that it wasn't the gross scenes of the sexual innuendos with, the kid or whatever. It was the kitten. So I do like that they,
right.
Yeah.
I think they have their
foot down on that.
Yeah. Like, why is it that that's what's considered off limits or not? I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
So another fun fact, this was mostly shot in July, so it was like super hot in most of the scenes.
Nice.
Like you can kind of sense, again, like I feel like it adds to the claustrophobia, right?
It
of
does.
the whole movie, where they did look a little hot and claustrophobic. So really, I just think it added to it.
Absolutely.
Plus, I think we've talked about it. That's just part of horror movies, right? For some reason, everyone has to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, they've all been like hot or like under terrible conditions. It's great.
Yeah. Okay. My last fun fact is they only had one knife for the movie. The director's neighbor was an engineer, and so he had to make like a retractable knife that they could use for the movie, but he only made one. So they had one knife, and including for the scene where they drop the knife from the railing where it like lands directly on the rail, they just kept throwing a knife until they got that scene, but they only had one. So someone had to take the knife and then run it back up the stairs when it fell. And then they would throw it again. And then they would do it again. It took them over 20 takes to get the knife like sticking on the railing.
So the same knife that was like on the fish was the knife that went into the neck and the knife that went on the banister.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
When you see it, it does look like the same knife the whole movie. They only had one. They were on a limited budget.
Okay. All right. Those are great fun facts.
Oh, it was a fun one. I did go get the Blu-ray to watch this one. And there was so much bonus commentary. I wasn't able to get through all of it because they had not one, but two bonus things where it was commentary by people throughout the whole movie. So they would just play the movie, and then they had like the director and like the writer and stuff doing commentary for it, but they had multiple versions of it. Yeah. So
that's too much.
There's so much. If people want to learn more, go get the DVD because there's a ton on there.
I know. I have to start getting DVDs and Blu-rays and stuff.
I know.
It's kind of fun. It's kind of fun. Plus, it's like really good quality. I feel like just because of streaming, I forgot about that. The Blu-ray looks really good.
Does it?
Even these older movies, it gives it like really good quality.
Okay, I'm gonna maybe I'll try it next time. Although our local video rental place that Brianna knows about finally went under.
Oh no.
I know. So I don't know where we'll get them, but okay, so that's it for the fun facts.
Oh, that's it.
I've got this time in history, y'all.
Let's do it. I'm excited.
This time in history, this was a good year.
Oh,
yes.
Good year. All right, so 1976. The company Apple was founded, the Apple company.
Nice.
So
What's
Steve
that?
Jobs.
I've never heard of that.
That's when it was founded. Jimmy Carter defeated Gerald Ford. I don't know.
Cool.
Sure, fine. My favorite this time in history, and I don't know if there's a way to play sound of things from a YouTube while we're recording, so instead we could just direct our listeners to this, but I found this list of like pop facts, and it told me that the number one song, and it wasn't for the entirety of 1976, but at the end of 1976, so December, was the title was "Tonight's the Night," in parentheses, "Gonna Be All Right," by Rod Stewart.
Nice.
Okay.
Neither of you know the song.
I mean, I feel like if it's by Rod
I might
Stewart,
if I hear it.
I might be able to recognize it.
I thought so too, because it's by Rod Stewart, but let me set the stage for you.
Oh, yes.
So the creepiest music video. So Rod Stewart's like singing. He's like in front of this fireplace, and he's playing his guitar and he's singing. And this woman in this like silky robe, you can't see her face, but she walks in. And she just sits down across from him, and he's singing to her. But then he starts he's talking about like tonight's the night and it's going to be all right. And he starts taking off his clothes. But then some of the lyrics he's singing, it's things like, don't deny me. Let me come inside.
Ew.
Don't say a word, my virgin child.
Oh, no.
Creepy.
Oh, no.
Then he leads her. He like takes her hand. He leads her upstairs and he starts undressing her. They're on the bed. He starts undressing her. He's still like singing the song, but then you randomly hear her speaking French. I
Of course.
do not recognize the song, and also so rapey and creepy. I just don't.
Very creepy.
But please do, just for your own entertainment value, go put it into YouTube and watch the video of Rod Stewart.
Okay.
You have to do it. I'm sitting up here by myself, laughing hysterically and screaming, "What is going on?" And Jaden was like, my husband was like, "What's happening?"
I love it.
So that was one of the number one songs. Bohemian, as a contrast, Bohemian Rhapsody peaked at number 9 that year.
Nice.
So I think that people in 1976 might have had their priorities.
Yeah, their taste in music was a little whack.
Tastes were a little off back
I
then.
thought I liked Rod Stewart until I saw that video, and now I'm like, I don't know. Some popular movies that year were Rocky.
Oh,
Yes.
A Star is Born, the OG, not the Lady Gaga version. Also good. King Kong.
Nice.
I also realized
classic.
I wrote Kind Kong on my notes instead of King.
It's the nicer version.
Yeah, exactly. Also, we were already talking about, some psych stuff. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest won an Oscar that year.
Oh,
Very nice.
Which is also an amazing.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A while. I feel like I need to watch it again. Popular TV was Happy Days. Brianna, didn't you used to watch that?
I used to watch Happy Days all the time. I was a huge Happy Days fan. Huge.
I didn't get it. I was like, what are you doing? She's like watching the Fonz.
I used to love the Fonz.
On Nick at Night, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Nick at Night.
Nick at Night.
You know what's really sad?
Classic.
Nick at Night now plays things like Friends.
I know.
I used to watch.
Yeah.
Their
Ouch.
prime.
That one hurts.
So.
That one hurts.
Also Laverne and Shirley and MASH were popular.
Yep.
A book that came out that year was Interview with a Vampire by Anne Rice.
Ooh, cool.
Nice.
We can also thank 1976 for the prevalence of gambling outside of Vegas.
Oh, love it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, 1976.
Yeah, that's when the Supreme Court decided that state laws that govern anti-gambling cannot be applied to reservations unless they have specific comments.
Oh, interesting.
That year, they also ruled that the death penalty was not inherently cruel or unusual.
Oh, wow, interesting. All right, cool. Yeah,
constitutionally acceptable.
Don't worry, guys. That one is okay.
Yeah. So, thanks, 1976. The minimum wage then was $2.30 per hour.
Nice.
So
honestly, though, what is that in today's dollars? Do you know?
Right.
I don't know what it is. It's got to be higher than our minimum wage.
Oh,
Just
I want to know.
Think about how much else has changed. How have we only gone from $2.30 to what are we at, $7.60?
Yeah.
Right.
Federal minimum wage.
Yeah.
We've not made a lot of progress in that.
No.
Our
No, we
system
have
is the
not.
worst.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Yvette's looking that up. I'll also say the population in 1976, this will rock your world. The population was 4.38 billion.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
We're now at 7.84 billion.
Holy cow.
Oh, that's wild.
So when people are over here blaming some of us millennials for not having kids, you know what? We don't need that big of a
No, we need a
Don't need
break.
anymore. Okay.
Y'all were
We need a
fine
break.
in 1976, and there was a lot less of you.
Yeah.
Okay. Wait. What was the rate again?
$2.30 per hour.
$2.30. Calculate. That would be $12.03
Oh my
today,
gosh.
which is a fair amount higher than the current federal minimum wage.
Yep.
Uh-huh. And not to mention that inflation has happened, so you'd need more than what was acceptable in 19.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
So, but $15 is too much. Thanks, boomers.
Don't worry about it.
In sports news, 1976, there was an Olympics. And that was the year that Nadia Comaneci earned the first perfect 10.
Wow.
In gymnastics in the Olympics. She actually ended up getting 7, but it was the first time that there was a perfect 10 awarded. And also Bruce Jenner.
Oh.
As Bruce Jenner was known then, who is now Caitlyn Jenner, won the Olympic decathlon in 19-
Interesting.
Oh,
cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I feel like it was a pretty big year.
That's a big year.
For stuff that applies to us now.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
We would recognize now.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, that's what happened then.
Wow.
Nice.
What a good movie.
Oh, this
I'm
was a
just
solid one.
And I'm honestly really surprised that none of us had heard of it or seen it before.
Right.
So, listeners, if you have not, we're about to get into our rating, but you should go watch this movie because I think it's a necessary one in any horror fan's book.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into it. So here on Spooky Sips, we don't do stars, we do sips. So out of 5 sips, how many would you give this movie? I'm gonna give it a 3.5.
Okay. That's a good one.
That's my rating. I'm gonna give it a 3.5 because I think it's really solid. Especially I feel like it stands the test of time. Watching it today, I feel like it's still a really solid movie.
Yeah. I was thinking 4.
Okay.
I think it was really solid. And it goes into a lot of issues and stuff that a lot of other movies don't. Alice as a character is just fascinating.
Yes.
They did so much with her. And also, I don't know if we've talked about it before. I grew up Catholic. If anyone out there grew up Catholic, you will very much so understand this town and the people who live there and the relationships. They absolutely nailed the Catholic community. They did. Yeah. Or maybe don't watch it then. I don't know. Triggered.
Would you consider yourself still a Catholic or?
Whenever someone asks me if I'm religious, which so why do people ask? I say Catholic-ish.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry.
I asked.
No, I like that.
No,
Catholic-ish.
Catholic. I brought it up. I feel like Catholic-ish. I'll go if with my parents if they ask, but I'm not going to go on my own.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I think I'm at a 3.95.
Ooh, okay.
It's close to a 4. And to me, anything a 3 or above is a really good movie.
Yes.
I feel like concept wise, I give it a 5. It's so good. I love the dynamics of the characters. I love the idea of it. I do love 1970s type movies. I think sometimes though, and maybe this is more to be said about me than the movie, sometimes I was like, this has been going on for a really long time, this movie. Sometimes I felt like I was a little bit wishing it would move faster or get to the point. So I felt like it just moved a little bit slow, but I think it was a movie of its time. So that's the only reason I knock it down a little bit, was just because of the pacing of it, and that I was sometimes a little bit realizing I wasn't watching the movie and I was thinking of other things.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah, I think it was an hour and 47.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like we're all fans of a 90-minute movie.
We love the 90-minute movie.
I love
here on Spooky Sips. We love it. It's our favorite.
Yeah.
Oh, well, all in all, I would say solid choice.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Stephanie.
Yeah, this was a really good recommendation.
Yeah.
Okay, so next time on Spooky Sips, we will be watching Final Destination. So get sipping and get watching. Okay, bye.
Oh my God,
I love
that
it.
mask.
I love it.
Thanks for listening to Spooky Sips. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, subscribe, and leave a rating or review wherever you're listening. To stay up to date on all the spooky things we're up to, don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at spookysips_podcast. Thanks again for listening. See you in 2 weeks for a new episode.